KREM 2 News 10 at 10, where we give you more news in less time. I'm Nicole Hernandez. Mark is off tonight. We start tonight with our weather. After some hot, windy conditions fueled a wildfire yesterday, things seem like they've calmed down a little bit. So we've got our chief meteorologist, Jeremy Legoo, here. What's going on with the rest of the week, Jeremy?
Well, it looks like tomorrow winds up being the best day we've got all week long, and then it's back to wind and eventually rain and maybe some cooler temperatures. Cooler temperatures and maybe some rain. Let's switch those two around because we've got a storm sitting off the coast. That storm is our next big weather maker. It all starts with wind. That wind isn't going to arrive till Friday because right now that thing still sits thousands of miles away. You know what? I have a fancy little tool. It sits 868 miles from the coast and just over 1,100 miles from us here in Spokane. So it's got a long way to go before it hits us. Because of that, tomorrow we get warm and sunny. Tomorrow winds up the calmest day of the week in terms of wind. And tomorrow also winds up almost the perfect temperature, 80 degrees in the afternoon. But Friday we are going to see wind pick up across the region, mid 70s, and then a front moves in. Saturday we've got the chance of showers and a high of just 66.
So we're tracking the Grove fire that is still burning in the Geiger Heights area. A ton of crews responded to the fire yesterday, but tonight some good news as we get our first look at the aftermath. All evacuations have been downgraded to level 1 or completely dropped at this point. KREM 2's Nathan Hyun was behind the fire line today when level 2 evacuations were still in place. He reports tonight.
It was a devastating scene. I'm on a property that saw the worst of it. Take a look. More than half a dozen vehicles and an outbuilding were destroyed. I had a chance to speak with this property's owner.
And that's where Emily and I were at when we smelled smoke. And we ran out and ran down there and looked around the corner. The shop was very tall. When we looked around the corner, it was a wall of fire back in those trees.
Fire was all Todd Graves could see.
From the time that we saw a wall of fire until we left was probably 20 minutes.
Graves has lived on his property for more than 20 years. He's a former firefighter himself and never thought this would happen to him.
I've fought fires out here in the West Plains and seen many structures like this, but certainly nothing like this has ever happened to me.
Fortunately, Graves' primary home was saved, but more than half a dozen of his vehicles and his outbuilding were destroyed. He's trying to stay positive.
Got out of here without getting hurt, and the neighbors were here helping, and they got away without getting hurt, and it's just stuff. We can replace it all.
The fire burned 75 acres, but it could have been worse.
And it went from a small size to increase in size very, very quickly. This fire in August will be a different story. The key thing here is June, we still had a lot of green out there to help slow the fire down.
Guy Gifford is a public information officer for DNR. He says air support also played a big role in the fighting of the fire.
So the key thing is we just have more air resources, which is why you're seeing the quicker response.
There were no injuries in the fire, and DNR says evacuations went smoothly. That was thanks to a portion of Cheney-Spokane Road opening while under construction.
There was really an effort to be coordinated in the situation, and we were able to execute as planned.
Kirsten Davis with the City of Spokane says it has plans in place for emergencies like wildfires, and Tuesday was a good example of that.
The best thing people can do is be prepared in advance for, levels 1, 2, and 3 evacuation measures.
It's a long road ahead for Graves.
We're going to recover.
But it's a road he's willing to take. DNR tells me that crews will be within fire lines fighting the fire until it is contained. DNR says that more than 70 firefighters are fighting the fire. In Spokane, Nathan Hyun, KREM 2 News.
So it's also Smoke Ready Week, and fire agencies are warning Washington State to prepare for the smoke. The Wildfire and Smoke Outlook for 2024 predicts a fast start and slightly more active season than normal here in Washington State. Conditions are prime for wildfires here, since we're in a drought across the region. That could mean we could see smoke early and often this year. To be ready, you should buy your in-home filters now, but of course the only real way to prevent smoke is to prevent fires.
Just don't be that spark. Be aware of the burn restrictions in your area. If you're recreating, make sure that those campfires are built responsibly. And if you're towing a trailer east of the mountains, please make sure you secure those tow chains and keep the sparks off the road.
While we will likely have an active season, scientists say we should get some relief specifically for Oregon and California, which have been getting more rainfall over the past year. Happening tomorrow, Mayor Lisa Brown and Spokane City Council are talking about Spokane's budget. The meeting, according to the city, will be a study session. They won't be making any decisions, but the public can still attend to listen. Right now, Spokane is trying to figure out how to get out of a $50 million budget shortfall. The meeting starts tomorrow at 11 a.m. on the first floor of the Central Library. Now to your night beat with a quick look at the day's top stories. 2 Idaho inmates charged in connection with an ambush at a Boise hospital back in March have been indicted on murder charges in Nez Perce County. 28-year-old Nicholas Fenauer is accused of helping 31-year-old Skylar Mead by shooting 3 corrections officers and then helping him escape custody at the Boise hospital. ISP says the pair are now facing a murder charge in Nez Perce County for the death of 83-year-old James Mowney. They say the 2 were driving through North Idaho and ran into Mowney. Detectives are also investigating the death of another man in Orofino, which they think is also related to this case. President Joe Biden just approved a disaster declaration for 3 North Idaho counties. In April, storms caused significant damage to Idaho, Lewis, and Shoshone counties. The photo on your screen here was a rock slide near Kamei. The damage across the 3 counties totaled more than $6.5 million. The declaration gives federal funding to state, local, and tribal governments. And Spokane Valley Fire responded to a wild crash on East Broadway this afternoon. The fire department says a car drove off I-90, ran through a fence, and ran into the side of a building. Crews had to extricate the driver, then took him to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Valley Fire says nobody else was hurt. That was your night beat, so to learn more about any of those stories, you can head to our website, KREM.com. In Northwest news, the president of University of Washington is stepping down after 10 years. Anne Marie Causse will finish her 2nd term, then leave in 2025. When the university swore Causse in 2015, she was the first woman, Latina, and openly gay person to be president. She sat down with our Seattle sister station today to talk about what it means to make history in Washington state.
On the one hand, I am looking forward to a time when it's no big deal. But for the time being, I really do. I mean, I've given a lot of talks, and I do have people who kind of say that, seeing me makes them think that maybe this is something that they want to and can do, and I think that's fabulous.
When she steps down, she plans to go back to her faculty position. Washington tribes are getting more than $30 million in federal funding to work on projects across the state. It's meant to help tribes clear or replace blocked culverts along roads, highways, bridges, and abandoned railroad crossings. In the long run, it'll help the state's salmon population, connecting them with spawning grounds that have been closed off for decades. And check this out, a white buffalo was born in Yellowstone earlier this month, and it's fulfilling a native prophecy. Lakota legend says about 2,000 years ago, when food was running out and bison were disappearing, a woman appeared and helped the tribe. When she left, she turned into a white buffalo calf, and legend says the white buffalo calf would return when we needed it again. That was your KREM News 10 at 10, where you get more news in less time. But